Good morning, Robin. Glad you're here. Yay.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Good.
Good. Is it really hot where you are?
Yeah, it's been ridiculous. So it's supposed to be up to like 109 on Saturday. So we're just working our way up there.
I know. I think today we're supposed to hit 106,
Oh,
but
wow.
I think that's the hottest day. I think
Yeah.
Saturday it's supposed to cool down a little bit. Like when I say cool down, I mean like 100, but better than
Right.
109.
Yeah.
So are you more Central California or is it more Northern?
Yeah, we're a little bit more northern, and so if you know where Sacramento is, so we're
Uh-huh.
about an hour and 45 minutes north of Sac.
Okay. Okay. My daughter just moved to Pismo Beach, so I've only been there once, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to kind of get familiar with where the areas are, and so I
Yeah.
don't know how far but it's so pretty up there, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. It
We
is.
drove up the coast and it's amazing. It's so different from Southern California, you know.
It is. It's very different. It's
Yeah.
very different, but it's nice because, you can drive 4 hours to the coast. You can drive, a couple hours you're in the mountains for skiing. And we have
Yeah.
Lake Tahoe that's only a couple hours away. And so, we're kind of right in the middle to where we can get around to a lot of things. So
That's
it's nice.
so awesome. That
Yeah.
is, my mother-in-law lives in Smith Valley, Nevada, which is only about an hour past Tahoe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I guess it's right. You know, we've been there as well, but she's only been there a couple years. But it's just, I guess, east of right off the border of
Mm-hmm.
Nevada. So I guess that's why it's so close to Tahoe. But
Yeah,
so pretty there, you
it
know.
is. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Mm.
all right. So we'll get started.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and mute everything in case anybody else jumps in, and then we'll get started.
Sounds good.
All right. All right. Here we go. Oops. Let's see. Okay. All right. So we're going to start off with some common words. I always like to do that just to kind of get everybody warmed up. All right. Here we go. Ready? Ever, truly, bad, while, reply, able, might, care, appreciate, anything, went, call, money, yesterday, hand, making, month, still, look, done, friend, expect, even, pleased, case, writing, keep, thought, nothing, favor, regarding, both, something, getting, necessary, given. All right. Now, I've got some basic theory briefs. I thought I would go through them, and I'm gonna really pick up the pace with this because they're theory briefs. So it'll kind of, I want it to be a little bit challenging, so I don't want to go too slow. All right, so I'm going to just run through a bunch of theory briefs. Here we go. You, he, it, the. Were, with, would, had. Were you, with the, would the, had the, is, be, are, could, can, company. Is it, is the, is he, it is he, to be, would be, are you, we are, you are, can be, can the, can I, can you, can he. Will, letter, remember, open, today. Will I, will you, will he, will the, will be, I will, he will, you will. What, when, which, where, about, did. What is, when is, which is, where is, about the, did he, did I, did you. In, some, any, ask, help, month, credit, consider. In a, in the, if, of, very, have, inform, information, for, if I, if he, if you, if the, of the, have a, have you, well, many, this, until, can, so many, this is, this will, I can, he can, you can, we can, it can, she can. Account, I am. And, not, yes sir, no sir, been, but, why, on. And I, and he, and you, and the. Are not, is not, did not, cannot, were not, will not, had not. Why not, on the. Good, going, gentleman, gentleman, purchase, go. To go, will go, can go, would go, I go, you go, did go. Should, shall, much, usual, unusual, receipt, under. Should be, should go, should I, should you. I shall, he shall, we shall, you shall. Very much, too much, so much. Knowledge, acknowledge, furnish, suggest, suggestion, after, order, paper, regular, advertise, satisfy, have, to have, did have, do have, I have, would have, will have, you have, should have. Tonight, business, advice, advise, together, necessary, correspond, correspondence, correspondent, water, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That, they, write, wrote, written, think, question. That is, that the, that will, they are, they will, they have, they can. Judge, even, evening, morning, possible, convenient, convenience, particular, recognize, finance, financial, upon. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Hasn't, wasn't, doesn't, minute, general, opinion, yesterday, affect, effect, discuss, select, worst, without, sufficient, other, another, list, cast, immediate, individual, enough, from, answer, secretary, secretarial, recommend, doctor, as in the regular doctor, and then doctor as in the proper noun doctor, recommendation, Mr., Mrs., Ms., Miss, around, into. And there's more. So what I'm going to do is next week I will finish the brief packet for the theory. Okay, so we'll stop there. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I will definitely finish that up. All right. Now I've got a drill here, a similar word practice drill, one of my favorites. It's going to cover whether, who, whose, why, while, which, where, whom, when, what. Okay, so it's a great drill. Here we go. While you are here, tell me when you will need it. Put it where he said, whether you want to or not. Which person is shy is why I want to know. Where did the message come from? Whom did you mean when you said him? When they tell you which one it is, let me know. What did you see and where did you go? Why did you say, that is what I wish to know? Where was the person whose name was called? Whose coat is this so we'll know who will pick it up? Who will bring the food and where will you put it? They brought whom to the party when they came. It is there whereof I speak. She is the one who is whimsical. He cracked his whip when he saw the crook. Where was he when he whirled around? The white fence went around the wide yard. Which way did she go and with whom? Whether or not they come is what I want to know. Where were you when I called? He got married on a whim. I was whisked away when they arrested me. We drank whiskey, which we bought wholesale. With whom do you live and where do you live? The elves whistled while they worked. I don't know whether they were home. She was a whiz kid when she was in school. The whooping crane whisked through the air with a whopping whoop. That is where it was when I saw it. The government owes a whopping big bill. Where were the cards? All right. Now I've got a drill that focuses on ordinals. So we're using our E for like first, second, third, that type of thing. All right. So you're practicing numbers, dates, and ordinals. All right, here we go. Ready? I hope it snows on January 1st. Her trip is planned for August 19th. They were married on June 15, 2012. So not all of them are ordinals. The winners will be announced on October 28th. The new school is set to open on September 17, 2018. I hope to get a Valentine on February 14th. The new class will start on the 27th of April. She will have a big party on March 14. Contact the correspondent by May 19, 2017. The bill is due by the 15th of December. Give all suggestions to the teacher by June 3rd. We plan to go to the CSR exam on November 21st. September 13th was a busy day. The meeting was held on April 2, 2016. We will see you on May 23rd. Our trip is planned for July 12, 2019. The new show comes out on Friday, October 18th. The baby was born on February 7th. Be sure to attend the open house on October 4th. Mail the letter by January 30. Her party is on Saturday, May 20th. Your homework is due by the 5th of March. She suffered a loss on November 8. Pick up the car from the shop on April 17. The work should be completed by the 15th of July. All right. I'm going to give you some Tangle Tamers. All right, here we go. Ready? Criminal intent, irresistible impulse, lateral support, past consideration, earning capacity, private rights, essential elements, quit claim deed, property involved, reasonable time, easement defined, usually permitted, sexual intercourse, many jurisdictions, classified forgery, felonious intent, continuity of use, act or omission, express condition, implied condition, mutual obligations, verbal abuse, corrupt intent, real estate, visible boundaries, legal limitations, extent of interest, most jurisdictions, general principle, arbitrary formula, further foundation, statutory definition, stealing property, permission granted. All right. And again, those are more on the challenging side. That's why they're called tangle tamers, because they're usually multi-syllabic words. So I encourage you after class to go in and just add anything that didn't show up on your dictionary. Just add those, to your dictionary. So they come up again, they'll show up. All right, so I'm going to give you some medical triplets, and then we'll move on. All right, here we go. Again, this is a great drill after class to add to your dictionary. Okay, intestinal ring clamp, inadequate fluid intake, right lower quadrant, chromic catgut suture, restricted leg raising, binocular eye bandage, large bowel obstruction, condylar knee prosthesis, common duct dilator, femoral neck retractor, pectoralis major muscle, perennial allergic rhinitis, thoracic aortic aneurysm, pulmonary artery clamps, interrupted silk sutures, horizontal mattress sutures, ruptured invertebral disc, cervical cesarean section, endometrial biopsy curette, systolic ejection murmur, superficial femoral arteries, acute inflammatory abscess, total cardiopulmonary bypass, general inhalation anesthesia, lateral subtrochanteric incision, chronic coronary insufficiency, computerized axial tomography. All right. Moving right into sentences. This is our last drill here, and then we're going to move into jury charge, okay? These sentences focus on initial consonants FR. Okay, here we go. Frightened frogs are frisky. Don't freeze French fries. Don't fracture the fragile fragment. Fragrant odors are in France. A frame house has wooden framework. Free men get frantic about frame ups. Be frank when talking about Franks in France. Frankenstein lived in Frankfurt and loved frankfurters. A freebooter is a free thinker and sometimes has freckles. The fraternity ate fresh freestone fruit. Freezers are shipped as freight on freighters. Freezers, I just said that, don't fret about frequent Fridays. Friars love French fried fryers and fritters. My frightened friend wore a frock with frills. Frippery frocks with fringe are frivolous. Palm fronds and fruit don't like frost. The frogman frolicked in the freezing water. The frugal was, or I'm sorry, the frugal man was friendly. All right. Moving right into, I'm going to read you a little bit of literary, and this is on an excerpt from Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. I love this book. Seek first to understand. I'm going to start at 120, and it's not very long, so I'll start at 120 and just work my way to 140. Here we go. Ready? This is adopted from one of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Using this strategy is a shortcut to becoming a more content person, and you will probably become more effective too. Essentially, seek first to understand implies that you become more interested in understanding others and less in having other people understand you. It means mastering the idea that if you want quality, fulfilling communication that is nourishing to you and others, understanding others must come first. When you understand where people are coming from, what they are trying to say, what's important to them, and so forth, being understood flows naturally. It falls into place with virtually no effort. When you reverse this process, however, which is what most of us do most of the time, you are putting the cart before the horse. When you try to be understood before you understand, the effort you exert will be felt by you and the person you are trying to reach. Communication will break down, and you may end up with a battle of 2 egos. I was working with a couple who had spent the first 10 years of their marriage frustrated, arguing about their finances. He couldn't understand why she wanted to save every penny they earned, and she couldn't understand why he was spending, or he was a spendthrift. Any rationale on their position had been lost in their joint frustration. While many problems are more complex than this couple's, their solutions were relatively simple. Neither person felt understood. They needed to learn to stop interrupting each other and to listen carefully. Rather than defending their own positions, each needed to seek first to understand. This is precisely what I got them to do. He learned that she was saving to avoid her parents' financial disasters. Essentially, she was frightened of being broke. She learned that he felt embarrassed that he wasn't able to take care of her as well as his father did his mother. Essentially, he wanted her to be proud of him. As each learned to understand the other, their frustration with each other was replaced by compassion. Today, they have a nice balance between spending and saving. Seeking first to understand isn't about who's right or wrong. It is a philosophy of effective communication. When you practice this method, you'll notice that the people you communicate with will feel listened to, heard, and understood. This will translate into better, more loving relationships. All right. I have an opening statement here. I'm going to read this once at 120, again at 140, and then again at 160. Okay. All right. I'm just going to fill in I like to mark my watch, and my hand took away one of my marks. So it's like, oh no, can't have that. So if I mark my watch with a marker, I can see it easier. I'll show you. It's kind of funny. So the green means it's marked in 25s, and the purple is marked in, I don't know if you, wait, let's see. Let's turn it there. Let's see. There it is. So that's, those are my marks. So they stand out. I know the other instructors used to laugh at me because they thought that was funny. Kind of like a, not a crutch, but like a security. All right, so this is an opening statement, and I'm going to read this once. It's only about a paragraph long, so I'll read it once at 120, and then at 140, and then at 160, okay? Here we go. We are trying to fit all of our puzzle pieces together in a logical manner. It is just as if you are building a puzzle by referring to the cover of the box. We know what the end photo looks like, and we have the pieces, so we need to fit them in place. First of all, oil did burn during the course of this fire. There was some amount of oil that was burned as fuel to feed the fire. Both parties admit to the burning of the oil, but they do not concur as to when the burning began. One party contends that ignition occurred right at the very outset, and that is what caused the fire. We contend that ignition was caused by a smaller fire that was already going. The oil was what made the fire difficult to put out. All right, so I'm going to read this again at 140. Here we go. We are trying to fit all of our puzzle pieces together in a logical manner. It is just as if you are building a puzzle by referring to the cover of the box. We know what the end photo looks like, and we have the pieces, so we need to fit them in place. First of all, oil did burn during the course of this fire. There was some amount of oil that was burned as fuel to feed the fire. Both parties admit to the burning of the oil, but they do not concur as to when the burning began. One party contends that ignition occurred right at the very outset, and that is what caused the fire. We contend that ignition was caused by a smaller fire that was already going. The oil was what made the fire difficult to put out. All right, so the last time now will be at 160. Here we go. We are trying to fit all of our puzzle pieces together in a logical manner. It is just as if you are building a puzzle by referring to the cover of the box. We know what the end photo looks like, and we have the pieces, so we need to fit them in place. First of all, oil did burn during the course of this fire. There was some amount of oil that was burned as fuel to feed the fire. Both parties admit to the burning of the oil, but they do not concur as to when the burning began. One party contends that ignition occurred right at the very outset, and that is what caused the fire. We contend that ignition was caused by a smaller fire that was already going. The oil was what made the fire difficult to put out. All right. Hopefully that got easier, even though I picked up the pace. You're doing on time. Good, we're doing fine on time. All right, so I'm going to now just read some closing arguments. I'm going to start at 120 and then work my way up to 160, okay? Here we go. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is Orlando Hunt. Did he tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Did he, Orlando Hunt, convince you beyond a reasonable doubt? Was the quality of his testimony sufficient and enough to convince you beyond a reasonable doubt? Ladies and gentlemen, Orlando Hunt lied to you, and it was obvious. He lied to you because he had a reason to lie. He didn't want to be charged in the death of Perry Coder. His choice was he was to become a defendant in a murder case, or he was to become an eyewitness. I'll either use you or do you. You will either be an eyewitness or a defendant. Go ahead, Buck, and charge him. And Hunt said, and only then, oh, no, no, no. Let me think about this. Let me tell you. Let me tell you now. Yes, you're right. It was Crandall McKinnon. And let me tell you the details. But he told him wrong. He lied to you, and he cannot be trusted. Then there was Gina Lee. It was Gina Lee's turn, and she was a sad case. Her life has been taken over, had been taken over, long before by drugs, long before January 4, 2014, when Perry Coder was shot. She had long surrendered her life to crack cocaine. Her life and her mind had been, by that time, controlled. From the trial transcript, Ms. Lee, you realize you've told different stories. Is that because primarily of the drugs that you were using at the time? Yes, she said. Do the drugs mess up your mind? Yes, they do, she said. How far back does your drug usage go? A couple of years, she said. Would you say you had been a heavy user or a user of crack cocaine? A heavy user. I used every day, 24 hours a day, she said. Is it your main focus of life if you're using drugs? Yes, it was, she said. You're constantly smoking or using the crack cocaine? Her answer, yes. What does it do to you? It just makes me high. And when you say that, if you could tell us, what does that mean? Well, sometimes I hear things, sometimes I see things that's really not there. Is that the drugs? Yes, it is the drugs. Taking over your body? Yes, she said. And taking over your mind? Yes. So prolonged use of crack cocaine messes your mind up the more you use it? Yes, she said. Ladies and gentlemen, she was high every day during this time, and she told you that. She told you she was even high during the time she was interviewed by Detective Caldwell. She told us that she had a hard time remembering things. Her ability to remember the time sequences and time frames was non-existent. As Orlando Hunt was a liar, Gina Lee is simply, I believe, a sad and pathetic case of someone whose mind has been messed up with drugs, messing with her mind, as she said, and she cannot be relied upon in a matter as serious as this. She said that on the night of January 4, she was high at the time and that she could not remember accurately. She said that she saw Popeye and Poonie at the motel drive into the parking lot. But remember this, she said it was earlier in the afternoon, and that's a quote, earlier in the afternoon, that they did not return in the evening hours. It was earlier in the day, but when she was in the field later, she heard a shot and she saw shadows. Remember, she didn't know the word silhouettes, but we said shadows, and then she remembered that, and she then assumed, and that was her word. It was Popeye and Poonie Hunt, because she had seen them earlier, but she saw two people running southbound, not northbound. And she said, I probably saw two people running in the back of the motel, but I don't remember. I saw two people running. You saw only the silhouettes of these two people? What does that mean? She asked. That means shadows of these two people. Yes. Okay. You are able to make out and determine who it was that you saw running down southwards towards the motel? Well, I figure, the way I saw the people come, I figured it was Popeye and Poonie. Okay, and that's what I want to ask you about, not what you figured or assumed. Then she says, I just saw like shadows. I couldn't really, but I figured myself that it was Popeye and Poonie, just couldn't see no close up because I was like right there in the field. You made an assumption it was Poonie or Orlando Hunt and Popeye and Crandall McKinnon? Yes, she said. All right, so we'll stop there. Whoops. Right. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of colloquy with the light board. Okay, just a little bit, and then we'll go into regular Q&A. Okay. All right, so we'll start off at 120, and I will work my way up to 160. Now, I'm going to give you a word list. You're going to hear Faretta warnings. That's basically a warning to a defendant of the risk of representing themselves if they want to represent themselves. You're going to hear district attorney, which I like to write as DAE. You'll hear pro per, meaning representing yourself. Prosecution, PR final GS. You're going to hear techniques. TRC, which means it stands for Trial Readiness Conference, like a pretrial hearing. Tactics, and I think that's about it. All right, here we go. All right, Mr. Taylor is here. On the Jones matter, Mr. is renewing his Faretta requests to represent himself to go in pro per. There was some other things you wanted to raise, and I told you to wait until Mr. Juan is here. Yes, Your Honor. Before I do that, though, if your motion to represent yourself, your request to represent yourself is granted, you are going to be requesting a continuance? No, Your Honor. Okay, all right. What were the other issues you wanted to raise? Your Honor, at this time, I would make a motion and declare I'm sorry, strike that. I would like to make a motion to disqualify Mr. DA as the district attorney on my case. Okay, do you want to explain why? Yes, Your Honor. I've been in custody for 5 months. There is a certain amount of secrecy that's implied or allowed, not to the prosecution, but to the defense as far as tactics or techniques or rabbits that they are going to pull out of their hats, if you will, that are effective only when they are revealed at the proper time. My only experience, Your Honor, is with my case, but when I actually let all my rabbits out of the hat, if you will, please, was at my TRC, which was also my motion hearing. And it was at that time that I revealed in court and to the district attorney, Mr. DA, a lot of my tactics and my plans in the form of motions and argument that I intended to use in trial. So I feel that, okay, so you feel like he already knows those things. Just a second. Did he finish his Ferretta warnings? I haven't filled it out. I read it, but I didn't sign it, Your Honor. Do you need a pen? I guess before we take care of the motions, I need to resolve that issue, don't I? I don't know the case number. It is, that's all right. Don't worry about that part. All right. Okay. For the record, while we were in closed session, the defendant was advised of the Ferretta warnings. The defendant has received and signed the record of Ferretta warnings, and that will be incorporated into the file. The court finds the defendant is capable of representing himself, and that does appear to be his genuine desire. The court finds that the request isn't untimely and that the defendant isn't seeking a continuance based on that request. And so the defendant's request to represent himself would be granted. And now the other motion, which you are now making, is your motion to recuse the district attorney's office as a whole, or a motion just to disqualify somehow Mr. DA, just to disqualify Mr. DA and admonish him of discussing the details of my case with any other district attorney that is appointed. That is based on the fact that it's already been up to the trial stage and it got dismissed, and now you are back here. Yes, Your Honor. I would like to point out at this time, too, the burden and any delays that resulted in the dismissal of that case were not on the, okay, yes. I'm sorry, I didn't get to really finish my motion. Go ahead and finish it. I feel, Your Honor, that events and or sequence of events that I just described with respect to revealing all my tactics at the trial level at this point, that knowledge would provide Mr. DA with an unfair advantage over me, and due to that unfair advantage, it would prejudice my due process. Okay, that's it. All right, Mr. DA, did you want to be heard? Frankly, no, Your Honor. All right, Mr. Smith, there are a lot of different situations where the defense has to disclose what they are going to do. One situation that comes easily to mind is after a mistrial where you have gone to trial and the jury is hung, and now you are going to try it again. And I don't know of any precedent, it would be, in my opinion, unprecedented to say that the prosecuting agency or even the individual prosecutor on the case can't come up and do the other one, the second trial. And I don't know of any case law or I don't see any logic to the argument that due process would require that to happen. So your request to have Mr. DA or the district attorney's office disqualified or recused from prosecuting the case will be denied. And then recused just means disqualified. All right. Moving right into some basic Q&A. This is going to be plaintiff. Let me give you a word list. We've got technique, experience, which you can squeeze, SP long ERNS, nervousness, criminal involvement, physical behavior, scuba diving, investigative technique, Miss Pearson, Rodney, suspicion focus, Lieutenant Johnson. All right. All right, this is going to start with the court, but plaintiff is questioning, okay? Here we go. Does the training technique which you have learned and the experience that you have had indicate the methods and the ways to control nervousness in people you are interrogating? We try to put them at ease. Just what was it in the defendant's attitude that led you to question her further in relation to the possible criminal involvement which you describe? I don't recall anything in her attitude, Your Honor. Her physical behavior tipped me off. I think that she was possibly or probably concealing something. She became nervous? Yes. Visibly so? Yes, Your Honor. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Clausen. Thank you. Isn't that when you started talking to her about scuba diving? No, I think we talked about scuba diving prior to that. I'm not sure, but I think we did. Would that be another investigative technique in the interrogation? To put someone at ease? Yes, sir. That is a technique. And you are skilled at it, are you not? I try to be. Your thought changed during that first visit somehow or other? That's true. Suspicion at that time focused on Miss Pearson in your mind? It didn't change to Miss Pearson. For the time being, it shifted to her. It didn't eliminate Rodney, in my opinion, but it brought another person into the investigation. You didn't know about that other person before you went out there, did you? No, I didn't. You had no time to check on that other person, had you? I was informed, based on the report, that it was Rodney. When you went back to the office, was not the purpose of returning to your office to investigate Miss Pearson immediately? Yes. That was the only reason? No, it was to discuss the results of the investigation with my supervisor and to verify the information that she had given me about herself and about Mr. Rodney. Did you make out a report of the incident on your way back to the office? What incident? Of your first meeting with Miss Pearson. Not at that time, no, sir. When did you make that report out? I think that my first report is dated on the 16th of April, which covers the initial interview and subsequent interviews. I thought you said something about the fact that you had immediately recorded the conversation that you had had so that you would have an accurate record. I took notes during my interview with Miss Pearson, yes, but as far as a report, no. At what time during the first visit did your suspicion focus directly on Miss Pearson? Well, it focused on her for the first time when she admitted that it was she and not Rodney that had actually forged the check. She told you that? Yes, she did. I was surprised. Up to that time, based on the telephone conversation with Lieutenant Johnson, I was led to believe that it was, in fact, Rodney who had forged the check. But she admitted that she had done it? That is what she informed me. Does it happen often that your suspicions change drastically? No, actually, it is rather unusual, sir. Well, your suspicions were considerably different from what they had been. Oh, sure. After she admitted forging the check, my thinking certainly changed. How much weight do you give to a person's manner when he tells you something, actually, I give it quite a lot of weight. Right. How are we doing on time? All right, so we're going to go into another Q&A. This is a medical topic, so I'm going to give you a word list, okay? So you're going to hear general practitioner, physician, specialist, standard responsibility, complications, operation, procedures, diagnosis, and then diagnostic. Let's see, perforations. Then you're going to hear mediastinitis. Mediastinitis, that's inflammation of the tissue in the chest or in the mid-chest. Okay. Let's see, x-rays, Dr. Horner, irrespective, urgency, recommendation, successive surgery. Okay. All right. This is going to start with actually defenses questioning. And I'm going to start at 120 and I'll move my way up to 160. Okay. All right. Dr. Catone, when a general practitioner or some other referring doctor who is not in your specialty refers a case to you, is there a certain relatively standard responsibility that is maintained between the referring physician and the specialist? Yes. The specialist assumes those duties that would fall within his specialty, generally speaking. Is that correct? Yes. And the referring physician may or may not follow the patient? Yes. If he follows the patient to a certain extent, there would be some teamwork between them. Is that correct? Correct. For example, the specialist might rely upon the referring physician to advise him of any unusual complications. Right. But as far as making the decisions on matters which fall within the specialty, that responsibility would be assumed by the specialist usually. Is that correct? Yes. Now, as far as this particular case is concerned, you assumed the responsibility of making the decision to perform the operation. Correct. And you made the decision to determine which of the diagnostic procedures would be done first, second, third, and so forth. Is that correct? Yes. You assumed the responsibility of ordering that patient's diet as it might be related to the procedure. Correct. And you assumed the responsibility of diagnosis of any mediastinus. Is that correct? Yes. You assumed responsibility of diagnosing any perforations? Yes. You assumed the responsibility for ordering such additional x-rays or treatment which you felt was necessary? Yes. And this would be true irrespective of who actually wrote the order sheet? Yes. You did rely upon Dr. Horner to advise you of any unusual complications that you felt you should know about. Is that correct? That is correct. And he did that? Yes. And you and Dr. Horner consulted frequently as far as this patient was concerned? Yes. Now, have you read the report of Dr. Horner? Yes, I have read it. When did you first read that report, doctor? Probably it was in May or June of this year. Did you agree with it as of the first time that you read it? Yes, I agreed with it. Now, in that report, he indicates, does he not, that it is possible that it will be necessary to have further surgery? Yes. Was it your recommendation that the further surgery be done? Not originally. Was it ever at any time your recommendation that a further surgery be performed? After reading Dr. Horner's report in May or June, and after getting the results of the further tests that we performed, I recommended additional surgery, yes. Did you make any kind of a written report in which you concurred in the need for additional surgery? I don't remember whether I made out any kind of report. I know that I talked to Dr. Horner. Did you talk to him in person or on the telephone? Probably both. I know I discussed it on the telephone, and we probably talked about it when we were at the hospital. He did indicate to me that there was an urgency regarding the successive surgery. And that was probably a little on the difficult side, I'm assuming. A lot of multisyllabic words in there. So let's see, we have just a few more minutes. Yeah, this is going to be more just for voice, okay? And you're going to hear, let's see, restaurant. You can use the brief, S-T-R-A-U-N-T. Mr. Kovac, testimony, either T final M or T-E-M. Just a moment is J-O-M-T. No further questions. I like to use N-O-F-R-G-S. No further questions. Nothing further. I like to use N-U-R-T, NERT. Object, O-B. Witness, W-N-S. Officer, I use S, final F-er. I know other people use different things. Is that correct? All right, so we'll finish off with some for voice. It's going to be plaintiff. Here we go. What kind of a light and overhead flood type? Some of the bulbs were missing. All right, where was that in relationship to Mr. Kovac when you saw him? Well, it would be in back of him over his head. He was between the corner of the building and the light, and he would have been clearly illuminated, right? Well, pretty clear. Your testimony was when you first saw the other party, you didn't see Mr. Kovac, right? That is right, simply because he was behind. Just a moment. Why don't you answer the question? Why didn't you let me answer it? Because you don't run the courtroom, sir. That is why. Just ask the question. You just answer them, if you will, please. Listen closely to the question and answer the question that is asked. I have no further questions. Mr. Skinner, nothing further. Mr. Owen, nothing further. Thank you, sir. You may step down. Did you want this witness on call, Mr. Skinner? I have objected to him being excused. If you want to put him on call, all right. Do you think you will be using him today? No. All right, I will call Officer Moss. I didn't get the name. Moss, state your name, please. My name is Darrell Moss. Your Honor, am I correct at this time in assuming that this witness is testifying solely against Mr. Kovac and in no way has any connection whatsoever with Mr. Nader? Is that correct, Mr. Owen? Is this witness's testimony along the same lines and on the subject as the previous witness? No different subject, Your Honor, but connected with the same things. Is this the evidence that is going to be offered against both defendants? Mr. Kovac. Only against Mr. Kovac. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are instructed to consider the testimony such as introduced through this witness as applicable only as against the defendant, Mr. Kovac, and you are not to consider it with regard to the charge against Mr. Your Honor, again, we renew our same objection as was made earlier regarding severance in this trial. The prior motion, that is correct. Again, the court will deny the motion. Were you on duty as a police officer on April 17, 2005 at approximately 12:30? Yes, I was. That was in the city of El Monte? Yes. And were you on routine patrol? Yes. At about 12:30 p.m., did you get a call from your Control 1? Yes. What was that call in regard to? It was a call from a dispatcher regarding a burglary in progress. All right. Did you respond to that call? Yes, I did. I wonder if you would take a piece of paper, take that off and draw a diagram of the area of this shop. Just roll that over. Did you get the witness's name? His name was Moss. I will ask him again. All right, so, that had a lot of colloquy, so that obviously makes it a lot more difficult because when we go to mark our material, we don't take into consideration the sign changes. Like that's, even though you're striking something, that's not considered a word. So obviously that's why it's going to seem faster. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. So that's why it does seem faster when you have, colloquy or four voice going on. So just consider this. When I take the material, every word is, you count every word as 1 up to 25, and then you make a slash. So when there's a lot of sign changes, even Q&A, fast Q&A back and forth, we're not supposed to count the sign changes as a word, even though you're striking that. So that's, I like to explain that because I think sometimes people say, why does some material seem slower and others is like, because, it's because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, kind of like multisyllabic words. We don't count the syllables. We count that as one word,
Yeah.
So, yeah. So anyways, but how did you feel?
Today was a little bit more difficult, but we had the medical and there was definitely a lot more multisyllabic words and stuff. But, that's what I need because that's where, I'm struggling with the most. You can go through all those briefs in the beginning and all those drills and 120, 140, it really doesn't, I can keep up with all that. But it's all like this muscle memory that's just built into my brain. Yeah. And so when it comes into something that I'm unfamiliar with and to go phonetically, then that's my pause. That's where I struggle. So no, it's good to have, the difficult material in front of me because, it's challenging and that's where I definitely need my most practice for sure.
Yeah. That's good. Well, then I'll continue to pull, I want a variety, I want to give you a variety so you don't get discouraged, but yes, I will definitely continue to pull that. Somebody had requested more medical. So that's why I thought, well, I'll just start pulling medical too.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was in school, my instructor told me that when you get out of a speed class, more than likely the tests that you pass to get out are probably more on the easier side.
Right.
So you're not really writing like the harder material, but she said always think of the previous speed. You can probably write the harder material, whatever that previous speed is. And
right.
Then, so then once you get out of the class that you're currently in, it's probably going to be, there's like a trail of similarity. You get into a new speed and you can write the old speed at probably an easier, with easier material, but then you figure your trail speed is from the previous is what you can write any of the hard material. So don't get frustrated because that's that's going to be the same even when you get into 225. I remember when I got into 225 and I could write the easy material at 200, but not the difficult. So then it was when I mastered 225, it was like, okay, now I can get the difficult in 200. So there's always that. So don't feel like you're alone or, oh gosh, why can't I get the hard material?
Yeah.
So I remember that helped when she told me that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, well, I'm so happy that you attended live. I love to have you in here and just making it so much more fun. So, all right. Well, if you don't have anything else, then I'll let you go. And I was going to tell you too, I don't know if you knew I'm on a roller derby team.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
so
exciting.
We had actually a game up in, it was like the Oakland area in the beginning.
Okay.
So if we ever have a game up there, I'll have to let you know, and then maybe I can meet you.
Definitely. That
Yeah.
would be so fun. That would be
Okay.
great. That
Yeah,
would be
I'll let
great.
you know. I will let you know.
Cool.
So,
All
all
right.
right. Well, you have a great day, and then
All right, you too.
I'll see you soon. So,
Yes.
okay. All right. Take
All
care.
right. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.